We're joined now by our good friend Zack Nagy of Sports Illustrated. Good day, good sir. How are we doing?
Man, we're doing good on this end. A lot of football talk. Obviously, spring camp's winding down. Good stuff, man. Time to talk some ball.
Zack, I'm just going to leave this one very open ended to you because, listen, I know that we've had spring game, and I'm not taking, like a half or anything that we've seen there for the overall totality of what we've seen. I'm just going to leave this open ended to you. We've been out there. What has been the biggest takeaway when Zack Nagy and look, we have the game, we have two practices at the end of it. But what has been the biggest thing for you that you have seen so far this spring that when you walk away 2025 spring LSU, what is Zack Nagy's number one thing that he took away from it?
Yeah, and for me, it's the edge rushers. And I know that's kind of a casual, vague take, but
No, it's not
man,
mine too.
the
It's mine
depth in
too.
that room is so substantial, and it starts obviously with the three newcomers with Patrick Payton, Jack Pyburn, and Jamari Butler. Those three stick out like a sore thumb on the field, and then you factor in Gabriel Reliford too, who I bought stock in on day one of camp. Man, I think that this is going to be a player that makes a big time impact in 2025. So for me, it's all about those edge rushers, man. I think they're uber talented. They're obviously getting coached up by one of the top coaches in the country, and Kevin Peoples, who I don't think gets enough respect for what he does both on and off the field. I think he's beginning to showcase elite recruiting abilities. So for me, I think those edge rushers stick out like a sore thumb. They stood out during camp, the spring game, etc. I'm excited to see what ultimately happens when the season rolls around week one at Clemson. But man, that two deep depth chart, you can't ask for much more. You got that experience in the SEC. You got the youngster that's up and coming in Gabe Reliford. It's hard not to like what you're seeing there. So for me, that group sticks out like a sore thumb. That's my big time takeaway from camp.
Zack, it's so funny you say that. We did not talk before this about like I didn't say, hey, I want to talk about edge. I want to talk about this. Last Thursday, um, every spring since 2020, I have come out and done a biggest winners.
Yeah.
Like, who are my biggest winners? My overall winner was Gabe Reliford because I felt as if, and so just to add on to your point, I felt as if that, like you talked about, you brought in three edge guys with Pyburn, Payton, and Butler. Somebody forgot to tell Gabe Reliford. I mean, because look, he gets a sack on us a couple of times. He makes a couple of big stops on third down in team period. Look, for whatever it's worth, them bringing those guys in made Gabe something mentally snap in Gabe Reliford to say, listen, I'm not, no way, no how. And I don't know if one of those transfers isn't going to be an odd man out because of him. And listen, here's the crazy thing too. He literally has been in a situation where he's just a sophomore. Like the development, this is the level of development that you should see that gets pushed up. My question would be is, and I've said this, I think they could be borderline elite, and I mean that. Do you get the same vibe that you think that, like, hey man, when we're all said and done with this 2025 season, that edge is like, hey man, the reason LSU either is in the playoff or push for a playoff is because of just that position.
Yeah, and to what you were saying before about Gabe, it's easy to roll over and kind of just like take your foot off the gas when
Oh,
you
they
see
don't
these
like me
when you
anymore.
see these three
Oh,
newcomers come in. But
right.
instead, he kind of put his head down and has worked, put on some size, taken some body fat off, and looks the part out there. So on Gabe's note, it's hard to not be impressed with what he did. And then for me, if you look at this edge rushers group and what they can provide this program in 2025, and kind of coming back to that question, the answer is yes. I think right now the safety room to me is the biggest concern on defense. It's hard
Oh,
not to kind of sit back and say, oh my goodness, like what are we doing right there? They might need to up the competition level, the talent level, et cetera. So
mhm.
you look at the edge rushers room and the defensive line as a whole, take some pressure off the secondary, get in the backfield, wreak havoc. I think that it could be a spot that really takes some heat off the secondary, takes some heat specifically off of the safety room. Yeah, man, it's hard for me to not sit back and say, look, this team can definitely utilize the edge rushers to take the heat off the rest and give them a chance to kind of propel their status into the college football playoff for sure.
You brought up safety. Um, what have you seen? Because you were like, hey man, I don't know if the competitive level is there enough. What have you seen from that position group? Good or
Yeah,
bad?
I think Tamarcus Cooley obviously is going to be your starter back there. He's one of your starters back there. He's a dog, and you've seen limited kind of action so far. They're all the way on the other side of the field, so it's hard for us to get the best look at them during spring camp and specifically during these 20-minute media viewings. But nonetheless, he's a guy who's getting those first team reps. Javian
Mm,
Toviano doesn't necessarily have all the experience in the world just yet. Joel
mm,
Rogers has zero experience. Deshaun Spears is slowly getting his feet underneath him. So for me, there's a lack of competition there and a lack of experience just because a lot of guys haven't taken big time reps in the SEC. You're bringing in
mm.
Cooley, who handled business in the ACC, and that's phenomenal, of course. But you don't necessarily have that experienced, savvy veteran that's kind of done it all so far. So for me, when I say to up the talent level and up the competition, it's potentially bringing in an experienced safety through the portal that can really kind of take these guys underneath their wing and move forward. So during camp, it's been a little bit sporadic. We've seen some guys flash, namely Deshaun Spears, who I think could be really,
Yeah.
really kind of a dude moving forward. But nonetheless, I think you can continue to up the level of competition, up the talent level, and the portal might be your best friend.
Zach, Jordan Gilbert will come back, but that level of experience, he didn't have a great year. Okay. And I think that, I don't know if you say, well, you just roll in there with them. But to your point about safety, there have been multiple situations where I've seen Trey'Dez Green eat that room alive. There have been multiple situations where I've seen Bauer Sharp eat that room alive. When, Zach, there have been more than one rep or more than one reps of Bauer Sharp running an inside fade route onto Marcus Cooley and winning the rep. Now, I know LSU posted one and the ball technically was incomplete, and that's good because he dropped it when he hit the ground. No. Like that has happened multiple times. What Blake Baker wants to do is send a lot of pressure, which means either you got to go into some form of quarters coverage or you got to go to man-to-man coverage, which man coverage becomes quarters after the last 10 yards, right? Like, I mean, you go into a quarters coverage 9 times out of 10. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I think you need to win some of those reps. And I'm not saying that Bauer Sharp is not a good player or that he stinks or anything close to the imagination. Zach, I mean, we've seen that room, that tight end room, who are freaks. Like, I mean, there's gonna be other situations, not like receivers will be in that spot. Explosive players will be in that spot. And if you're getting beat on a fade route by a tight end, well, what gives me faith that you will do that against a receiver? And so that, Zach, I never thought post like Grant Delpit that LSU would have this much struggle at safety. Never, ever. And I thought Jay Ward was exceptional. I mean, Jay Ward made multiple plays to win you games in 2022, like Mississippi State for a fact.
Right.
He caught the interception there at the end for you to win it. Um, Zach, it by far is the most concerned position outside of maybe defensive tackle that I have.
I agree with that. I think once the portal kind of opens up, I think safety is where you're going to have to start to look. And you're right, by the way, about this, Bauer Sharp, Trey'Dez Green, not necessarily abusing them by any means necessary during camp, but certainly getting the upper hand on them during most of the media viewings that we've received. So we've seen it in clips, we've seen it in person, we've seen kind of the whole 9 yards about it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's certainly a concern for me being the safety room. I think Tamarcus Cooley has the chance to continue to evolve and get more acclimated to SEC life during the rest of camp or the rest of the offseason, rather. But guys like Deshaun Spears continue to level up. Joe Rogers continue to level up, etc. There are dudes in there that can take that next step. It's just a matter of if they actually do take that next step or not. And then defensive tackle room, that's an interesting room right there. I mean, you got two guys rising as sophomores in Ahmad Bro, Dominic McKinley, who we both think can really be some guys this season, specifically Dominic McKinley for me. And then it gets a little vague. Sadir Mitchell, Shone Washington. It's a thin room. So when that portal opens, man, for me, I'm looking at defensive tackle and I'm looking at the safety room to see if they ultimately make a move and if that's one of those quote unquote positions of need moving forward.
For you, what have you disliked, or been neutral on with defensive tackle?
Yeah, think it's been some sporadic reps. We've seen a lot of 2v1, 1v1. We've seen some different moves there. Sadir Mitchell was the one to me that stood out during camp.
Mhm.
I think he's been a winner so far. And this is a guy who doesn't have that much SEC experience, Blake. Like, this is a guy who
Mhm.
is starting to get his feet underneath him now.
Mhm.
And to see him start to hit his stride is promising. Ultimately, seeing him go down on Tuesday definitely makes you press the panic button, but then comes back out on Thursday, gets his feet
Wait, he
underneath him.
wasn't carted off like previously reported?
Oh, dude, everybody's sitting here just talking about all this stuff, just like the worst case scenario. And like, we're sitting right there. So it's like, we know that it's not the end of the world. He went down, yes. Initially, it looked bad, yes, but walked off under his own power and got back on the bike and did what he needed to do. So at
Yeah,
the end of the day, it's Sadir Mitchell who stood out to me so far.
I agree.
He's the big winner during camp alongside Gabe Reliford. It's exciting. I think defensive tackle room has some young and up and comers in McKinley, Bro, Sadir Mitchell. Sean Washington's a guy that you've talked a little bit about over the
Mhm.
last year plus. So excited to
Mhm.
see what ultimately pans out in that room, but would not be opposed to going out and getting another experience piece.
Yeah, and listen, I came out on Wednesday of last week, Thursday of last week. I don't remember anymore. I'm getting gray hair. You guys are younger than me. I'm getting old now. Um, I was wrong on my thought on Jacoby and Guillory for what it's worth. In this sense, I never thought he'd be back for spring. Now, I didn't think he'd take a rep. I did not think that he would be out there. Now, he hasn't taken any team reps or he's just been going through individual drills. We didn't talk about his absence post Achilles injury last year. So I think even adding him in, how does that room evolve? Listen, here's where I'm at when it comes to going into the portal. And a lot of people in the comments on YouTube kill me about this. Okay, you've spent ridiculous amount of money already, and you're wanting and not attempting to look at other people in the portal tells me that either number one, you don't want to spend the money, or number two, that you feel comfortable where you're at. Well, it doesn't seem as if that you don't want, like, you will spend the money. So that excuse is out of the window at the current moment. The thing would be is that you would say that, okay, well, we feel good where we're at. I I I don't know if I agree with you there. So to the point of, and look, Don McKinley's made some good plays. Zach, I posted this and got hammered on it, but I mean, I'm like, listen, I will show you the reps. Don McKinley has been inconsistent
Yep.
in moments and times. And so that's not to say that he won't develop, but then he'll make a good play. I just think that you got to get more consistency there. And if a DT goes in the portal that you think they can play, then you got to go get him. We've talked a lot about defense. Oh, let me stay on one defensive thing before we move to offense here. Corner. Thoughts? I'm not even going to say anything. Thoughts?
I mean, it's a shame that I'm going to be the casual here, just saying what everybody else has kind of echoed. But DJ Pickett is a superstar in the making. Long, rangy guys, put on some weight, looks the part. It's hard to not kind of sit back and kind of salivate at what DJ Pickett can provide moving forward for this program.
Mm-hmm.
Mansour Delane, for some reason, just isn't getting the praise that everybody else is giving DJ Pickett, and it's a shame because I think he's going to be a superstar for this team. And superstar in the sense of you haven't had that talent in that room, so he's going to up the expectations, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But Mansour Delane has been a guy who's looked really good, and I'm not trying to sit here and kind of what sunshine pump or rainbow, whatever it is. I'm not trying to sit here and just gas these guys up for no reason. When I look at two guys in the cornerback room, it's going to be DJ Pickett and of course Mansour Delane. They've looked the part, they've looked solid, they've upped the talent level in that room to the highest degree. Cornerback room, I feel very comfortable with. I think you have a lot of guys that can come in and make plays. Ashton Stamps obviously has SEC experience. We'll see how he pans out in
Yeah.
2025. We'll see ultimately what happens, Blake. But you got a DJ Pickett, you got a Jakeem Jackson, you got Mansour Delane. So you got some comfortability in that room. I feel very, very solid with what they're at. We'll see what happens with the returning guys and PJ Woodland and Ashton Stamps, of course. But you got these transfers, these newcomers that you can fall back on and make a big time impact in 2025.
Hey now, Michael Turner, all 155 pounds of him. Zach, I said this to Bryce Kuhn and that episode either has been published or will be published. I don't even know yet. But Berrien Brown last year ran a fade route against Trey Amos, who might be the third or fourth corner off the board in the draft. He caught that pass that ultimately let Kentucky win the game and upset Ole Miss. It basically, let's call it what it is, kept them out of the playoff.
Yep.
I turn around 3.5 months later, or 4.5 months later, and a 155-pound corner and Michael Turner in that same exact play is physically dominating at the point of I say at the point of attack, but where the ball's being thrown, and he rips the ball in the air away from Berrien Brown, and he's the one that ultimately made the play. If that's your fourth corner, I'm intrigued to see what Michael Turner can give you this year too. Now, again, he's got to gain 15 pounds. He cannot walk into the SEC 155 pounds. At some point, you're going to have to tackle, and you will get hurt. Let's call it what it is. Brother, get to 170, right? Like, get to 170 pounds, and you'll be, I say fine, but you'll be better there. You got to gain weight. But even to the corner thought of that, Michael Turner stood out to me, dude. And look, I know that there was laughter when we were up there in the media availability part, and I'm like, it was you. It was you that I was talking to. I'm glad. Yep. Okay, it was you. And I'm like, bruh, I mean, look, you don't run a guy out there rotating with the first team in this situation with him unless it's bullshit. And it wouldn't be bullshit, was what I'm saying, because that should be Ashton Stamps. Because you had Mansour Delane, DJ Pickett, and Jakeem Jackson.
Correct.
The next guy that everybody's expecting to be there would be Ashton Stamps. It wasn't. It wasn't. It was Michael freaking Turner. And so then that catches your eye, and then 15 minutes later, you and I are talking about, then he catches, like, we're conversating, like, why Michael Turner? Like, what's going on here? Is Ashton Stamps here, and you're check and roll or whatever? And then he goes out there and makes a play. Like, so basically this wrap-up is that I feel like that the floor is elevated, right? If that, like, your floor is vastly elevated from where it was a year ago.
It is. And for me, I'd be doing a disservice by not mentioning Michael Turner. So I'm so glad that you did that. And that play on Berrien Brown, dude, like, that's one of the head turners from camp overall. Like, if you're going to talk about one that stood out during camp, it's that one. And to go stride for stride with Berrien Brown, who leads the SEC all time in kick return touchdowns, a speedster, a proven SEC piece. Yes, does Michael Turner need to put on weight? Absolutely. Does he need to live in the weight room and live in the nutrition center this offseason? Absolutely. But nonetheless, the intangibles are there. The instincts are there. The speed is there. Michael Turner, right. If you have him as what, your fourth, fifth cornerback, I mean, you're sitting pretty in that cornerback room. So when you ask me how I feel about that room, Blake, I feel pretty damn good considering you got some dudes there that Corey Raymond has kind of brought in, retooled, reconstructed the room as a whole. It's hard to not feel good, especially when you have guys like DJ Pickett, Mansour Delane, Jakeem Jackson. So you feel comfortable. You're sitting pretty in that cornerback room. I'm intrigued to see what happens going into fall camp and how this depth chart starts to roll out. These reps start to get divvied up. It's an exciting time for Corey Raymond and the rest of this defense.
Absolutely. Zach, let's move to the offensive side of the ball. Open-ended question again. The biggest things that have stood out to you offensively?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be this offensive line rotation. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's unique or good, bad. I'm kind of sitting in the middle on it right now. But look, you got DJ Chester still sitting there as your starting center. He's not backing down from competition. Had the opportunity to talk to him, and he's excited about the competition level and what's provided him, kind of living in the weight room, getting bigger and better every single day. You talk to Jacoby and Guillory. He says DJ Chester's gotten stronger and stronger every single day. So it's exciting to see kind of how he's evolving, but nonetheless, taking it back into the question, the offensive line is what stood out to me so far. At what point do you bring in a guy like Carius Kern, give him some first-team reps? This is a dude. When do you throw him into the fire and see how he plays with these first-teamers? Josh Thompson. Blake, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Where do you put him?
He's a guard.
And he's working at that second-team right tackle spot. So when I'm sitting here looking at the question marks and the standouts on offense, it's the offensive line, man. There's so many different pieces of the puzzle that need to get put together. How's Brad Davis going to do it? He's got a couple of months to figure it out. But for right now, not too many answers have been provided during spring camp so far.
And I don't think they'll get it answered in August. Look, I equate this to this, Zach. In 2022, when you had 4 offensive linemen that left, Cam Wire started right tackle and got abused by guess who? Patrick Payton.
Yeah, you're right.
So things are coming back a little bit more into space here. So then you get into a game against an FCS opponent, and you're like, bro, Cam Wire, no way. You move in Emory Jones. The NFL draft, and I don't like draft analyst guys besides my co-host Joe DeLeon, so don't tell him I said this, but there's no bias from a lot of these guys in the sense of you bringing Josh Thompson in, they don't give two Rudy Poos where he plays, but they're going to tell you what they think that he's going to play in the NFL. He's a guard. And I bring this up. I do think that offensive tackle, or tackle in general, they don't have enough quality depth, and that is why you put Incarius Kern at left tackle. It's why you put Josh Thompson at right tackle. Now, I do think that there's some political games going on here in this sense. If I don't think Bo Borderline ever leaves, right? Like, I'm not saying that. Just curious, if Josh Thompson comes in on day 1, day 2, day 3, and he hadn't been here during the spring, and you just plug him in there, just Cohen Eccles go in the portal. Does Paul Mabinga go in the portal? And then you're in a much different situation from a depth perspective. Look, I'm just going to call it like it is. They're playing politics. They're taking reps away to play politics. And look, I understand why you have to do that, because you can't go into the season hurting there. At the same time, you are why is Carius Kern at left tackle? That means that you don't have a backup left tackle. So Tyree Adams backed up Will Campbell all last fall, and when we were sitting there, we're like, bro, all right, now Tyree Adams, barring injuries, you're 6 offensive linemen, regardless of what you think.
Yep.
That's what they're trying to do here. But Zach, the offensive line, I don't think we can judge yet. And even though I think the interior has been bad in some situations, I don't think that they've come close to rolling out a rotation here. I don't think it's close. I don't think they're remotely done. I don't think that they're I think they have an idea of what they want to do, but I don't know if I can take anything, because I don't think Cohen Eccles is ready to be your right guard. I don't think Paul Mabinga is ready to be your left guard if Carius Kern continues to do what he's doing. They're playing politics at the highest level. And look, in today's world with Nico Iamaleava, which I accidentally texted you something I was trying to text to an agent, and you were on the receiving end of that. But
what the hell on, though? I mean, are you kidding me? Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, look, the kid didn't show up to practice on Friday. We have these reports that are out there. He didn't show up. Okay. Well, that only means one thing to me, that these negotiations are real. They're very real. That's why you have to play politics. So the reason I haven't come out here and said your interior O-line is bad, your offensive line's been bad, brother, they're not. It's not their starting 5, in my opinion.
We don't know. We don't know.
I do think, though, Weston Davis from day 1 getting obliterated, and let's call it what it is, and this is going to be a positive comment to the last team period that we saw in these big extended practices, 2 hour and 45-minute practices. Patrick Payton coming over there and they're chirping like, all right, big dog, that's the way you work. Jack Pyburn coming over there saying, all right, big dog, and he doesn't allow a sack. They're doing good there. Weston Davis is the key to all this call. It's not Tyree Adams. It's like Weston Davis, to me, is the biggest talking point, because it allows you then to move those guys inside if you need to. If he hits, then those guys can move inside. So, Zach, I'm sorry for being long-winded there, but it's just such an interesting conversation to have about that offensive line.
It is, and I think Weston Davis is one of those kind of pieces of the engine that's going to make it go. This is a dude who's been coached up so hard by Brad Davis from day 1. I mean, we've sat there and watched him. Watch him just chew him out, calling him, well, aren't you the 5-star? Like, just talking all that shit. So
that ain't a 5-star rep. That ain't a 5-star rep.
Yeah, like, we're sitting there watching Weston Davis just get absolutely lit up by his position coach, and it's starting to pay off. I mean, like you said, not giving up a sack. against guys like Pyburn, a proven SEC guy, Patrick Payton, a proven ACC guy. Iron sharpens iron. You're starting to see it be proven with a guy like Weston Davis so far in camp. As for the other guys, we'll see what ultimately happens. But your point is absolutely valid and absolutely spot on in the fact that if Weston Davis does his job, handles business, it gives you a lot more versatility. It gives you the opportunity to move guys around, like a Josh Thompson inside. Start to move other pieces around, maybe a Carius Kern. Get him on the field immediately. This is a dude. This is a dude here. So nonetheless, it's an interesting rotation that they've been working with. Obviously, we haven't had the opportunity to see who's got the juice and who's going to be that first team spot, but they've got some guys. They've got some talent in the room. It's a matter of putting the puzzle together. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to have that kind of set come week 1 at Clemson. You're going to have to see some trial and error here, but nonetheless, you're going to have these guys that can get put together sooner rather than later, I can hope.
And listen now, Clemson last year struggled, their DC got fired middle of the season. They couldn't stop the run. They allowed a Texas team that couldn't run the football to run for 300 yards before kneel downs on them.
Mm-hmm.
You go up there and don't run the football. You're going to have some questions that you have to answer there. Let me ask you this. This is open-ended, and I'm not going to try very hard not to I just want your God's honest opinion. Has there been anything – well, what have you put your thumb on offensively that you really like? Let me ask it like that.
Again, it's going to be more of a casual take, but that tight end room, the 1-2 punch of Trey'Dez Green and Bauer Sharp is superior. I mean, they look fantastic. And I could take this even more open-ended and just say kind of your pass catchers as a whole. I mean, the wide receiver room is uber talented from top to bottom. I mean, you have 6 guys who could take the field and make some big-time reps. And don't sleep on a guy like Destin Hill.
Thank you. I just brought up fat. Don't
sleep. And I love when we were talking to Garrett Nussmeier, man, just calling him fat over and over again. And everybody's sitting there like, who the hell is that? Like,
yes,
that's Destin Hill, man. That's one of Ed Nacar's finest. That's a dude. So let me take it more open-ended here instead of just hovering in on the tight ends. It's your pass catchers as a whole.
I agree.
And upping the level for Garrett Nussmeier, giving him some vertical threats, unlocking different aspects of the offense is important. We know Caden Durham's going to handle business on the ground this year, hopefully. We can just say some prayers there. I know I will be leading up to week 1.
Say a couple Hail Marys.
Your pass catchers, man, they stick out. Trey'Dez, Bauer, they look like dudes in the tight end room. Fast forward to your wide receivers. We can hope that Nick Anderson continues to get in the groove. Barian Brown's a proven SEC piece. Chris Hilton does what he does during camp. It's a matter of if he does it during the season as well, but he's looked the part. I mean, Aaron Anderson, we know what he can bring to the game. So you got some guys that can unlock the offense.
Yes.
It's exciting. I'm excited to see what they can do. The pass catchers, man.
Let me ask you this. Let me just say this, not ask it. To me, there hasn't been anything in these 2-minute drills, these 11-on-11s, these situations, like you went 1-8 in the red zone, okay? You missed Xavion Thomas. You have to line up for field goals 3 times with the first team unit that you missed the field goal from 55 plus, by the way. You went in a normal team period. And listen, this is just practice. I'm not judging what has happened based off of a spring game and a half. I'm not going to do it. So Blake's not talking about what happened in the spring game, whatever. My thing is, Zach, I feel like things have been a little bit clunky though, offensively, right? And so if they're still clunky, I wanted more answers offensively that I have not gotten. Now, again, and I've said this ad nauseum because Blake's too negative. Okay, well, there's a part of being negative and a part of I had an expectation coming into spring that we saw some more explosiveness that we haven't seen yet. Like, how many times has Chris Hilton been missed on those fade routes?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that has been it has been a lot that Chris Hilton's been wide open in the end zone, and if the ball's not thrown out of bounds, it is a touchdown. So the good part is, to your point, well, if that's connected, then okay, we're cooking with grease. But it hasn't been to the level that it needs to be. Now, you brought up pass catchers in general. Brother, they ain't no excuse. Nick Anderson might be your 4th wide receiver. And that, in and of itself, because they're not bringing in Barian Brown. They're not bringing in Nick Anderson. to start Xavier Thomas. Not going to happen. I don't care what you tell me. If that is your 4 with the tight end room, holy shit. That is weapons galore. So then I come into a situation with then why isn't there more explosion? Right? I mean, now DJ Pickett and some of these guys have been the reason, but man, you gotta I feel like they've still been a little bit clunky to me. And
Yeah,
like it's spring. Don't freak out about spring. You're right. I get that. But again, the last time that I saw a second-year quarterback go in there, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid won the Heisman. So again, I understand what we're trying to compare that to. But Zach, I feel like it's just been so clunky in this spring in moments.
It has been, and that's kind of ultimately where it comes down to consistency is going to be your best friend. We've talked about it with a couple of different players, but you got to talk about it with the entire group as well. So when it comes to the passing game, obviously missing guys like Chris Hilton on routes down the sideline isn't going to cut it. Missing him in the end zone during red zone work isn't going to cut it. Talking to DJ Chester on Thursday, he was really talking a lot about how this red zone needs to improve, the red zone work. And obviously he's spot on. I mean, we see it from a bird's eye view during camp. But these guys on the field, too, understand it, too. So it's something that obviously needs work. You got the pass catchers, and we're sitting here talking about the talent that you got there. But you got to maximize the talent. You got to hit the talent. And if Nick Anderson's your 4th wide receiver in 2025, I mean, holy shit. I mean, you are in such a good spot. It's not even funny. You didn't bring in a guy like Barry Brown, who's proven himself in the SEC to not get some meaningful action. So you got some dudes. Maximize the talent, find consistency, stop having the funky plays where you're missing them. Just be consistent, find it. And this comes down to Joe Sloan's play calling. Can he maximize the talent on the field in order to get them day in and day out? We'll see what happens. Fall camp's going to tell us a lot in the next couple of months. But for right now, not as many answers as we would have liked to have found in the passing game. But understanding that you have a ton of dudes is a promising sign moving forward.
I agree. I fully agree. It's been an interesting spring. We'll see how this fall goes forth. And listen, I didn't even bring this up to anybody other than Carter this past week. Of the top 10 quarterbacks that were ranked this year, you play 4 of them. Garrett is in that mix, so you have one of them. Brother, all right. Okay. Like, listen, I posed a question this week, Zach. You might have one of the toughest schedules in the country. And when you have something like that, spring, fall, winter, I don't give the shit of the season. You better be a little bit more ready to go than what you have been. So, it's going to be interesting. All right. Zack Nagy, Sports Illustrated. Thank you so much, good sir. Tell everybody where they can catch all the work and all the things you. And by the way, you know, I have really good friends that they send me every one of your practice reports. You're like, I mean, like, because you just do such a great job. But tell everybody where they can catch all your stuff, man.
Yeah, no, man, I appreciate it. It's been a fun spring camp. I mean, just getting out there, talking with the guys, it's fun. Kind of just poking around and picking everybody's brains has been fun. But for me, you can always find me at ZNagy20. That's the personal handle. At LSU Tigers SI is the Sports Illustrated one. So that's where you can find us on socials. And not everybody's on social media, man. So go into Google, Safari, whichever search engine. Punch in LSU Tigers SI, LSU Sports Illustrated. You'll find football, baseball, basketball, transfer portal, recruiting, women's basketball, purple and gold related. We got it on the site, man. So make sure to check it out. Good things coming. We're kind of entering a little bit of a slow spot here, but content's not going to stop on my side.
Yeah, unless you're Jay Johnson homer like myself, which
understand that.
Always the Jay Johnson homer. All right, Zack Nagy, Sports Illustrated. Thank you so much, buddy. We'll talk soon.